What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pod and Long. I'm your host, Ryan. It's great to have you with us. I'm here with my co-host, Drew and Megastar Mark. Welcome, gentlemen.
Yo, it's good to be here for week one recap.
Week one, we did it. We actually had real football played.
Yeah, right. And like I said, joined by our Degrassi award-winning director, who won an Emmy for his great role on Degrassi. Man, what was it like working with JT?
Everybody cried when he got shot.
Wait, did he get stabbed?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. He was the one who got stabbed. Drew
shot. Yeah. Honestly, Drew and I could do a Degrassi podcast.
I want to hear that.
And should, by the way.
Absolutely should.
I want to hear that. Can you do that for me? Sure. Just for me.
Right, just for a one-person listener.
I will listen to every episode.
Yeah.
We are here to recap week one of real, actual NFL football. I think we learned a lot, or maybe I'm more confused. I don't know how you guys feel. Maybe I'm more confused than I learned, because, boy, were there some weird outcomes in week one. That very surprising things have happened. We're going to do our categories. We've got our segments. All of them are back. Game balls, FUBAR, Stripe Spiral, broadcasting moments of the week will return. Greg's Bets is back.
Say a surprising return, a run-in,
Greg's
if you will.
Bets. I have a request actually for Greg's Bets. Greg is former co-host, not on the show anymore, but he's still willing to take the weirdest pictures of Greg to continue to post.
Come on.
Can you get me some weird pictures for Greg's Bets?
Easy request, Ryan. My goodness, that is not a problem.
We are posting those on our Instagram, Pod and Long.
I'm going to lead with the tuxedo one, but
I like it. Right now, he's got a pink cowboy hat in the in the graphic, but you can follow along with Greg's Bets.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't ask this when we're on the air. Wait, we have an Instagram?
Yeah, we do. Oh. We have an X. And we have an Instagram.
Doing it for the gram, and X gonna give it to
you. We have both. X gonna give it to you. All right. Yeah. There's a lot to cover in this episode, so I feel like we should just jump right into this thing. And we're gonna do our categories, which I didn't have time to make funny category names, but we'll work on that as the season goes. We'll get some funny ones. But I'm gonna start off with a classic. Oh, what? A Greg classic. The Browns manhandled the Bengals.
Gross.
What happened here?
There's so much to hate about this game.
Yeah, for
everything. I hated it all. Let's talk about Joe Burrow real quick. He got his contract finally.
Thankfully, because he might need it, because he was hurting in this one, and they just let him play. So
pretty rough, but he is the highest paid quarterback, $275 million.
And well-deserved. Until Mahomes will get his contract probably in a couple weeks, but he'll be number 2, and that's fine. That's probably where he should be. He was hurting.
It was rough.
Call it rust, I think he seemed to be favoring the leg again, which that shit ain't going to get any better. You know, I don't know what they're expecting out of this, but that leg will not get better.
One wonders, like, if he hadn't signed his Jaylen Brown contract, would he have played in that game? You know what I mean? Like, would he have held out? Would he have been like, nope, sorry, fellas, my leg hurts?
That would make sense. I would have.
I mean?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, up until the day before, I said, like, this guy's insane. Because I heard his press conference. He's like, I'm going to be out there. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, what did you listen to anything RG3 says on air? Like, listen to that man, because, like, that could be you.
Please don't do that. Please don't get hurt.
And then literally that night, he signed a contract. I'm like, oh, he already knew. Like, when he said that, he knew that contract was coming. Fine. But, I mean, this is concerning because it's a soft tissue injury. It's not going to get better.
We saw this with Josh Allen last year. Like, as soon as that happened, he never was right ever again. And maybe still isn't right, to be honest. We'll get there. But I was so surprised because Deshaun was not good in this game. Like, if you watch this game with clear eyes, he had the one touchdown run where he celebrated and he played the guitar and all that. Other than that, he was not good.
Nope.
He was not good. The Browns defense was great.
Mm-hmm. That D-line is excellent.
It is. It's really good.
I don't think it has any rapists on there, so that might be a thing. I don't know.
Oh my God.
it's
coming in hot this season.
two small thoughts, which is one, the as you can tell, this is why I brought this out, because I've done before in my life at different stages. Whoever it was that was directing that game for CBS, I hate it that he took the reacts of Deshaun Watson's guitar playing celebration and we never saw the front of him.
Right.
Never see his face while he's playing his fake guitar. And then when they bumped out to break and replayed it, they used the same wrong angle.
Was he changing chords? That's what I want to know.
What Mickey Mouse bucktooth Kevin Dunn bullshit is that?
Kevin Dunn.
Has Deshaun Watson ever played a guitar? Let's ask the first question first. But
No.
I like tangentially as it relates to the Joe Burrow, Jaylen Brown contract. I do wonder, like, at what point are we going to see a quarterback? And I think Mahomes would be the first one who could reasonably do it. Go back to his team and say, I want my contract structured in such a way that I am, by $1, always the highest paid player in football.
I've wondered that too.
And the teams probably hate that very notion because they don't know how much they're going to be committing to their cap.
Mhm.
And now they're suddenly beholden to someone else's awful decision. Like, just ask the Ravens how they feel about Deshaun Watson's contract when it came time to negotiate for Lamar. But, like, aren't we headed that way?
So
Doesn't
I'll
that
tell you,
feel inevitable?
what's weird is because we've mentioned this before on this podcast that we're all wrestling fans, and WCW, which I used to do a podcast on, famously had Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, two of their wrestlers, had I can't remember what they called it, but it was a clause in their
Favored
contract.
nations.
Favored nation. You know what I'm talking about? Where
Mhm.
they would always be, no matter who got a contract, they would get their contract bumped up. So they were always in, like, I think it was like the top 5. And that was constant. So if Goldberg got a new contract, if DDP got a new contract, they did nothing. They couldn't, as long as they were on the roster, they got their deal renegotiated. And it killed WCW. That was a big contributing factor, right, to bankrupt that company. So go ahead.
Keep going. Nope. Keep going.
I agree with you. I think somebody will try it.
I can't believe that you said it was Kevin Nash and who was the other one?
Scott Hall.
I can't believe that either of those two fellas are in the same sentence as a term that I learned in my global economics class. That they applied for most favored nation status as a trade partner of WCW.
If you're a wrestling historian, those two guys are not dumb. They are smart dudes.
I know.
Yep.
It's just
And
it's such an anachronism.
Mm-hmm.
made a ton of money off that company's demise.
It was like I said, Vampiro did it or something.
Oh my god. But it also, like, bred no jealousy, because anytime anyone got paid, they were like, great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that is
good
a
for
good
us.
point. Yeah,
Get
Well,
paid.
and then ultimately Goldberg eventually reaches that best of all statuses for anybody involved in professional athletics, which is the pay to stay away money.
yeah, right.
We're going to continue to pay you to
won't go
not
away.
do anything.
Right.
Oh boy. Is there anything else to say about this game? What do you think
hate
about
the
this
Browns.
Bengals thing?
That's
Like-
that's sorry.
I texted Mark. I may or may not have giggled every time the play-by-play guy said a hole for Chubb. But
I love Chubb. I love him so much. He's
Yeah,
my
he's
favorite.
fine.
He's the only Brown I really like.
He's not subhuman trash. No,
Right.
you're right. So he's fine.
He's okay. All right. Well, the Bengals did this last year. They were 0-2 to start the
Yes.
season.
Right.
Did not play anybody in preseason. Seemed to learn nothing from that. I think they'll be fine. I think this was just a blip in the road here.
I am very concerned about that leg.
and that's really
True.
everything. That's what holds them up.
Yeah,
Ooh,
right.
Should we at least take a minute to address Jamar Chase calling the Browns elves and then being upset that they lost?
Yes, we can totally do that. We lost to the Elves.
Yes. Which I love in his mind. If he loses a game, it's to whatever mascot, not the players.
Yeah.
Whatever, like he got beat by a Cardinal and he's really pissed. And
And
he
this-
takes it out on a Cardinals.
This is
Like, I
something we
love
made fun of them last year about, because didn't they
Yes.
come on the air and was it Scott Hansen, I think, who said, like, what is this thing in midfield? Like, he
Right.
made fun of it, and
they
we for the
debuted it.
rest of the year thought there was an elf curse.
Right.
Anytime the elf was in the middle, they lost.
They debuted it halfway through the season. It
Season.
wasn't
Right.
like this started. It started off with the orange helmet,
Yeah.
and then the fucking elf showed up. And,
Right.
And it's
and
easy. It's
spread
easy
his
to
Keebler
forget.
goodness.
It's easy to forget now that like the elf debuted like right before Deshaun Watson's return,
Yes,
and so everybody
right.
thought like this is supposed to be the great distraction.
Right.
Look at
Right.
that thing.
Look at that thing.
Look at that
What is
thing.
it?
You mean that rapist? No,
Yeah,
the
no,
elf. No, the elf,
I don't
guys.
know what
Come
the elf's been up-
on.
We don't know what the elf's been up to. I think it's irresponsible for us not to speculate.
Agreed.
Let's look into the elf. All right, let's move on in the what category. The Bucks, a team I thought was going to stink, go out and beat the Vikings.
That might say
Let me-
more about the Vikings than it does about the Bucks. And I liked I went way out on a limb for the Vikings last year, and I've learned my lesson. But
Well,
I,
you were
I
right.
still
I
think
mean,
on paper they're a good team.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. I'm suspicious of everything that happens in week one because of the way teams like totally
Yeah.
disregard the preseason now. But it was a head scratcher.
yeah. Let Baker bake. Baker
He was my quarterback last year,
Yeah.
and it
right.
was not good. So
This-
anytime he performs well, I'm not happy about it.
So there's some things that happened in week one that I think are very indicative of how this season's going to progress. I don't think this is one of them.
No, I
Okay.
don't
It's a
know.
cool
This is
story.
It's a fluke.
Yeah, I mean, like the Vikings too are just very soft. And I was not surprised that a team that kind of was a little hungry wanted to show prove the doubters wrong, that they came out
Yeah.
strong in this one. So
Okay.
it's a cool story
see
though.
that.
I do like I said, I kind of like Baker. So.
There's things about him that I like, but
Yeah.
then he was my quarterback and didn't play well. So that could be Matt Rule's fault. Hopefully we'll talk about him later.
Oh yes.
The Mike Evans. We made fun of Mike Evans a lot last year for his one of the most
God.
ridiculous drops of all time when in the Panther game where he had it in his hands and like bobbled it for like 14 yards. He had another incredible drop inside the red zone where it's like his hands don't work sometimes. He's just like
Yeah.
bleh, and just like hit the ball out of the back of the end zone. Like, okay.
His
playing
body's
for-
rejecting it.
Yeah.
He's playing for a contract too.
Yeah,
That's not
right.
good. That's not a good move.
I
That's not a
think
good move.
I was telling somebody at work, we were talking. He's actually a Bucks fan, and I said, like, I would not be surprised if he shopped at the trade deadline, Mike Evans, because I mean,
He
like,
wants
Yeah,
out because he wants a new
that
contract.
rumor's already
Yeah.
out there.
and it
Yeah.
just makes sense to me. Like he should probably be on a contender, especially since he will be playing for a contract anyway. So you might as well get something for him.
Yeah, and by the time the Bucks are ready to compete
Right.
again, he'll be past it. But
Right.
I mean, this is the man who single-handedly won Johnny Manziel the Heisman Trophy. So like, I'm not really selling down the
Right.
river just yet.
If somebody
He's still a
offers you
great
though,
player.
if somebody offers you like a third rounder, would you do it, or would you wait out for more for Mike Evans?
Would depend on how his season's going, but third feels about right for his
Yeah.
age and the fact
Right,
that you'll
for
have to
his-
figure out his contract situation.
Right. Okay. Moving on to the next category. This category is simply titled Mark. This is for you, Mark. Part one. You can decide. Do you want to go good or bad? Which one do you want to go with first?
Go with good.
All right, we're going to start with good. Your prediction that the Rams don't stink
That's right.
and that the Seahawks are demon spawn worked out well for you.
Hold up. I like Geno Smith.
Okay.
I like DK Metcalf. There's a
It's
lot of players
just
in the
Pete Carroll.
It's
It's just Pete Carroll.
I hate. I don't want you to throw the whole Seahawks under the bus.
Okay, that's fair.
It is
That's
just
fair.
my hatred of Pete Carroll. But
That's
yes,
fair.
Continue.
Anyway, the Rams somehow wake up from a coma. They were like the Undertaker, and we're going to talk about the Undertaker later. They sat up from the. There's an Undertaker thing in broadcasting moments of the week.
Cool.
They got off the mat and laid the wood to the Seahawks in this game,
Yeah. Stafford over 300 yards.
throwing
No,
to
but-
guys we've never heard of.
Right. Although what their tight end is pretty. What's it? Higbee, I think his name
Higbee,
is.
we
He had
know.
he had a very good game.
Tutu
Yeah,
Atwell,
yeah.
and
well,
then the other guy. I don't know
the-
who he was, but he
He
has
was
like
a rookie
right.
from BYU, I think, and he was
Wow.
and he was very good. I remember
was
liking
awesome.
him in this year's draft. I thought he was very, very good. This team, I'm telling you, I think they can make some noise. I think the offense was put on pause for 1 year because of Stafford. He's back. He's playing well. Seahawks, you can say what they want about their offense, but their defense is always pretty solid. I think this was very impressive.
It was a nice win. Shocking. Shocking to me. I thought the Rams were done.
Well, Ryan, not for me.
We put them in diddly poo, and they won this game pretty handily.
Who do they
Like-
play next week? Do we know? I'm hold on. Do you have a pulled
We
up
could
something?
look it up.
It's
We can
it's a
look it up.
winnable game, whatever it is. I was just
Yeah.
looking at it.
They just strike me as a team that if they can string a couple, I mean,
No, it's not. It's San Francisco.
Oh, never mind. My bad.
upset. Rams
San-
win.
San Francisco. And then they have the Monday night game against Cincinnati, which could be an upset.
3-0.
Wow.
Can't stop. Won't stop. Mark it down, people. All you listeners out there, Rams are going to win the next 2 weeks.
Who's the
3-0.
rookie running back that they have? He played really well.
I
in this
don't
game.
know. Yes,
I don't
he
know
is.
off the top of my head.
He
Is
very
Kyron
much
Williams.
outshone Cam Akers, who
Right.
is not a good player.
Yeah, Cam.
Kyron Williams had 2
Yeah.
touchdowns in this game.
I had
Good.
such high hopes for Cam Akers
Me
as a
too.
fantasy running back last year, and like by week 6, I just had to pull the trigger and dump
It
him.
just, you know what? We talked about it before with quarterbacks, but you can tell,
Yeah.
I think, with any position, if they have it or if they don't have it, and he
He
don't
does
have
not have
it.
it.
He is probably will be in the league for about 10 years. Well, he's a running back, 5 years, and then fade away.
Cam Akers this was his stat line. He did score, but he had
A
22
2-yard out.
carries for 29
Jesus
yards.
Christ.
That was his
Desmond Ridder
stat line.
numbers.
Oh God.
It's you know what, this feels like as good an opportunity to bring it up as any. I'm sorry, I know I'm interrupting the Mark category, but now that we brought up Desmond Ridder and we brought up Cam Akers' inefficiency, this is just a small sampling of quarterback numbers from Sunday. Because right after halftime of the 1 o'clock games, I texted Mark and I was like, Desmond Ridder has 8 completions for 24 yards, and I don't understand how that's possible.
Oh, I'm gonna get
Amazing.
there. I've been
So-
drinking.
Amazing.
I've been drinking coffee in the basement for 2 days on this.
So this were the. Sorry, should I hold off? Are we going to get to this later? I can hold
Oh,
off.
it's on the list.
Okay, I will.
It's on the list. I'm so angry.
I will hold
We'll get
off
with it.
because Ritter's a big part of the conversation, but there's a whole lot of people who are part of this conversation. So
Okay.
I'll shut up. Let that be the tease.
Please bring that back after I get
Oh.
done with my rant. But
Okay.
let's go to Mark's rant. The Jets and the Bills. This game was insane. This game was insane. Jets fans, we'll talk about you in a second, but let's talk about it from Mark's perspective. Bills. Wow. I'm not really sure what happened here. The wheels fell off.
I think the biggest question people in Buffalo has is how is Casey Middlesack going to do on the second line of the Sabres this year?
Oh my
I think that's the
God!
most interesting thing. Is Tage Thompson going to reclaim his status last year as a top line NHL player? Let's talk about that. I think
We're
that's
doing this in week
gonna be
one
great.
already?
We're going to do this right now. Okay. All right.
He's moved on to the Sabres, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, hold up.
Okay.
So I was pissed that night. I was pissed.
Rightfully so.
Josh Allen, fuck that guy. Okay, I am now. Drew can attest. I've always hated him. Drew can attest to that. The day he was drafted, I hated this man, and I've always been consistent with my hatred for Josh Allen. Always listen to back on this podcast. You'll always hear it. Joking aside,
Yes.
he's an idiot. He makes these plays. Thinks he can make these plays when there's
Right.
and now I will so this he after the game he came out and said I cost us the game. Yes, you did 4 times. He should not have been in that situation. The Bills I'm going to go back to what I was complaining about last year.
Yeah.
4 yards a carry against the Jets' number 1 ranked rush defense from last year. 4 yards a carry you're getting rushing. That's not Josh Allen. That's James Cook. That's Damian Harris. That's why am I blanking on his name?
Latavius Murray.
Latavius Murray. I didn't even know
He
he was
was
on
there.
the team.
The corpse of Latavius Murray was out there.
But he was there. You know how many times per quarter they ran the ball last night? 4. 4 times per quarter they decided to run the ball. When you have a team that can't do anything on offense, bleed that fucking clock, especially when you're making chunks every time you do it. Ken Dorsey, I don't know. Like I'm very frustrated by watching this man again, who spent the entire offseason talking about how the Bills offense will be different and it'll be, off Josh's arm and stuff like that. Josh wasn't calling audibles. That's Ken Dorsey called that shit, and then Josh fucked it up. So I'm mad.
That was a highly winnable game.
Very winnable. They should have won that game. when they went up 10-3, I thought this game was over. I thought the Bills got this.
Yeah.
And nope. They just kept fucking up and giving the ball right back to and I don't want to take anything away from the Jets on this one because they 100% deserve to win this game. They played their asses off. The Bills played with no emotion. So props to the Jets. It was frustrating to watch. It was sad to watch. And it makes me think like, will they bounce back? Can they bounce back? Do they have to do a whole overhaul? Is McDermott the guy? I mean, a lot of questions after this.
Yeah. Brought up a lot of questions.
Yep.
Should
we talk about
the
lead in this story?
We should. Aaron Rodgers. I wanted to get your
get my rant out of the way. Okay, all right.
Aaron Rodgers runs out with an American flag. He plays 3 plays, and then he blows out his Achilles, and he's out for the year after the PR. I don't know what you call it, a parade of this story that has gone on since December. So about where he's going to play, if he's going to do this, is he going to do that? He's going to go on Pat McAfee. He's going to say this. We think it's all the Jet fans finally have a real quarterback, a Hall of Fame quarterback. All this stuff, Hard Knocks, every single thing leading up to this game, and then just boom, he's out for the rest of the year. He's done. Career on the line, maybe.
No, it's over.
Listen, I would, as somebody who's had major reconstructive knee surgery, which is not the same as an Achilles, but feels the same in this moment. I would never wish this on anybody.
Yeah.
But in its own way, like, wasn't this the only way this was going to end?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, because what was, maybe they win the Super Bowl. I posit, especially the way their defense looked last night.
Yeah.
Like,
amazing.
That was within the realm of possibility. But like,
sure.
Anything short of that, and it was going to be a bunch of insufferable finger pointing. And like, as awful as it is, and as disappointing as it is, just as a football fan to see this play out this way, like this feels in its own stupid way like the cleanest possible ending.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Unless or until he tries to come back next year, which I don't know, possible, but not probable.
It's more possible because of the position. He doesn't need to.
Right.
He's not Kevin Durant. He doesn't need to he's not Dalvin Cook. Like he could conceivably come back and play.
There is, I think, he is so competitive. So I think I think he will try. I think he will rehab, but I think he'll get to the point, because I think I read it was a 6 month rehab on something like this.
At least.
I think he'll get to the end and realize this. I'm 4 years old.
I see him playing next year in some capacity only because to me, don't overlook the pride of somebody who's worked this hard for this long. Like I remember Charles Barkley basically played an extra season because the season he had intended to retire, he ended up hurting his back and wasn't able to finish the last 20 games of the year, whatever it was.
Right.
And he basically came out after the fact and said, I only came back for that next season so that I could end my career on my terms and not on a stretcher being carted off.
Yeah.
And I think Aaron Rodgers is a prime candidate for that. And if that's what he chooses, good for him, because hell, I would want to choose the end of my own run too. Yeah. But, this at him as a top level effective quarterback, it may have ended last evening.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I mean, as much as we've made fun of this guy.
Yeah, that's not how you want it to go.
That is not what anyone wanted. That's not what anyone wanted. Steve Smith did it. He blew out his Achilles on the Ravens, came back and didn't completely get all the way back, but he had a decent run there in his last year.
What's funny is my just little peek into my personal life. My mother-in-law is staying with us, and she's a nurse. And we were watching the game, and when it happened, she said, "That's an Achilles." Knew it 100% that because the whole thing when he stood up, and he was not in a lot of pain. I mean, he didn't look like he was in a lot of pain,
right?
But he stood up and then said, "Uh-oh." And she was explaining when that happens, you don't feel your foot. It's basically the foot isn't there anymore. So when he stood up, he's like,
I can't stand.
Uh-oh. So
yeah, he knew immediately.
Yeah, he did 100% knew. And I think they knew pretty quickly. I think it's good, honestly, as sometimes as annoying as he is, I think it is good for football that he's around.
Yes.
Nobody wants this.
No.
It's funny that it happened to the Jets. If you're not a Jets fan, of course this is happening to the Jets. But I even feel bad for Jets people. You finally got, you did it. You got the guy. You got, the miracle happened. And this is how it's taken away from you. That sucks.
It does.
And by the way, you can't get back what you gave up to get him.
Right.
Yeah,
they give
I
it
saw today
so
they lost. They
much.
officially lost the second rounder today.
Packers aren't giving that back.
I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, that's sports, man. Like it's.
Yeah.
I mean, but at the end, you know what? They're 1-0 though. So
They are.
I mean, you got to look
They're
at that.
1-0.
They
Listen,
play
if-
that defense is just so damn good.
Garrett
and-
Wilson's catch.
Oh yeah,
Unbelievable.
DJ Reed was real good in this game. Real
Brees
good.
Hall was
Oh
insane.
yeah.
That was
And-
like a
and-
Madden video game.
They
Like he had
have-
9 carries for like $150.
So there's a lot of talk about what they're going to do. Obviously,
Yeah.
it won't be. It can't be Zach Wilson. If you want any desire to make the playoffs, it can't be Zach Wilson. I mean, even in that game, I don't see it in that man.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you trade for Jameis? Do you trade? Do you go out and sign Carson Wentz? I mean, are these guys managed? Because this defense is top 3.
Yeah.
Can you have a dominant running game with a 100% number 1 wide receiver, top 5 in the league? Can you just get somebody there to get you to the playoffs and then see what happens?
Well,
Yeah.
Rodgers not coming back in the playoffs. So like
Oh God, no.
No.
there's
no,
no way
not
he's
that
coming
injury.
back to save
yeah.
this. I don't think Wentz has. I'd rather go with. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'd rather go with Zach Wilson than Carson Wentz because he's been there. He's gotten some training from. You could see it on his play fakes last night. He had way better play fakes and play action
Mhm.
because he's copying Aaron Rodgers' play fakes. You could tell.
Yeah, and
But-
oh, by the way, just because Rodgers is hurt doesn't mean he's not in that facility.
Mhm.
Right. He might come in and coach him up. Seems like he wants to coach based on watching Hard Knocks. It's like he kind of likes
Yeah.
coaching, it seems like he was very excited about those. We'll talk about him later, but the guy who returned the punt, like
Yeah.
he was all in on those guys and like coaching them up.
So I think the biggest loser in this game, other than my Bills, in every facet of the sense, and me, but how scared do you think Nathaniel Hackett was when he realized Aaron Rodgers? He was like
God.
probably on his Etch-a-Sketch, and they're like, Nathan, we need you to call plays now. It's like, oh no,
He pulled his binky out.
please no. I wasn't here for that.
Hard Knocks did not do him any favors when they just like completely shined a light on his love of Austin Powers 3. Like, what? Wait a minute, what? And then this is something I appreciated. They talked a lot about basketball in one episode. And I'm like,
Right.
I love basketball, but I don't think most of America even knows or cares about basketball.
So this podcast adores Nathaniel Hackett for a
Yes.
variety of reasons.
Yes.
He's become much more sympathetic to me after Sean Payton went off on him for
Right,
no reason.
right,
Like
yes.
I'm actually kind of like he's kind of like a face now. I'm kind of rooting
He
for
turned
him.
face.
So, yeah, I hope he like pulls. I hope he does form a very run heavy first, pass when you needed to, efficient offense and gets the Jets in the playoffs because they deserve it.
We'll say it's gonna be really hard to fucking do that because that division is tough. It's gonna be really tough.
Not with the Bills playing the weather. Sorry. All right.
I think they're gonna bounce back. All right, next category. America's team. They're back, ladies and gentlemen. The Lions top the Chiefs. All the Chiefs' problems finally came home to fruition here. The fact that they have no wide receivers.
Oof.
Andy Reid went full Andy Reid 2003.
Where'd that come from? He was hiding that one for a while.
He went full crazy to go for it. This bothered me, and then nobody was talking about it, so then it bothered me even more. He went for it on his own 30-yard line, down 1 to the Lions on 4th and 20 with 4 timeouts. Essentially, he had the 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. Defense wasn't playing that badly. Could have done something. Bad field position. No, he goes for it on 4th and 20. They miss. Finally, we get a false start, which we'll talk about all night. We got no false starts, but we got one there. It was almost like a get out of jail free card there. Like,
Wow.
you can now punt. You made a stupid fucking decision, Andy Reid. Go ahead and punt. And he chose not to do that again. And then they lost the game because they have no wide receivers, basically, and they lose.
Is Kadarius Toney, if he hasn't done so already,
Wow.
should begin practicing the phrase, "Would you like to see that in a wingtip?" because it feels like that's where he's headed.
Yeah.
And I hate that for the guy because he's super talented, but it's like he
Yeah.
can't seem to get it all pointed in the same direction.
Oh,
The
brutal.
the two things struck me in this game. One is NBC's cameras looked awful.
Yeah. What
And
was that all about?
And I thought it was me. Like
It also cut out for like 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Right.
Yeah, like I started checking my TV settings to make sure it wasn't me, and like I started texting some other people I know in the broadcast business, and they were like, "No, it's not you." Like, hard to tell if it's like their chrominance or luminance or whatever, but the Lions look really blobby because the jerseys were all bleeding out. Like it had that like CSI Miami post production like color saturated super filter on it. It was all very strange. Andy Reid is David Caruso. Anyway, but the from the on the field stuff that I took away from this game, the thing that kind of alarmed me, and maybe it's always been this way and I never noticed, did the Chiefs not have a goal line package?
Yeah.
At all?
They do those wacky
Yeah,
reverses.
it's Mahomes does wacky shit. That's the inside the
Especially
five.
like, and sure, like there's a lot of memorable plays where they do the big like merry-go-round or whatever, and then they shovel pass it to Kelsey and he like wedges his way into the end zone. But in the absence of that, when you have Pacheco, who is not a small running back,
Right.
like, and it's it's second and goal and they're on the 2.5 yard line, and you're telling me they can't just go 11 on 11 and push the pile into the end zone? They seem either reluctant or incapable of doing it, and like that's alarming in the long term. Like I'm not panicked for them because whatever, it's week one, there's teams lose sometimes, but that in the long term seems like something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of lumped this in with what we were talking about earlier with the Bucs. This seems to me like an anomaly. The Chiefs, I feel like, will learn from this. It's actually, it's surprising they lost at home. I will say that because they are at home field advantage is, in a league where home field advantage isn't as big of a deal as it used to be. Playing in Kansas City is still huge for them.
Yes.
Right.
So to blow it in a first, all the eyes are on them, first game of the year. That was surprising, and props to the Lions, but I do feel like the Chiefs will get back on track probably as soon as this week. So even if they don't, like I said, they've shown they can start 0-2, 0-3 and still get to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl. So
yeah, I think they'll bounce back. They didn't have Kelsey, which opens everything up. I mean, once he's back, it'll make it a lot easier for those other players.
I can see why they pursued DeAndre Hopkins as hard as they did, because I feel like Andy Reid had to have taken a moment in training camp, looked around and said, who are these 7-Eleven?
Why are we relying on Sky Moore?
Right. Oh, remember we talked about the guy from BYU, who I feel bad because I can't remember his name. It's a weird name. Sky Moore, I had just as high hopes for. I thought Sky Moore was going to be dynamite in the NFL, and that guy has not done a thing.
He scored. I mean, last year the Chiefs wide receivers did not score, right? Isn't that true? They didn't score at all until the Super Bowl. Is that right?
Kelsey, yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
that they desperately need him.
Like, yeah. Well, he's also dating Taylor Swift, so
I saw that today.
Right, Kels. Lions. I feel like, as much bullshit as we gave those guys for that draft and how stupidly they constructed their draft, it made no sense. I feel like Gibbs has something. Like, he looks pretty good. He wasn't the featured back, but every time he was out there, it was pretty exciting. Who's the middle linebacker they drafted? Also way too early. He played well. Branch had the pick 6. Like, they're rookies. While the draft still doesn't make sense to me, like they could have waited on these guys or not moved up or not done this. All those guys are actually decent and contributed. So
their middle linebacker looked like he was plucked right from the 70s in a time machine and just dropped
into
here.
The Iowa's middle linebacker, like he's perfect for the
line. Of course he was.
Yeah, right. All right, moving on to the ballot of the 2023 Carolina Panthers and Desmond Ridder, Hall of Fame quarterback. What in the world? What in the world?
They know exactly what they got in Desmond Ridder, and they are not allowing him to throw down the field.
Yeah, first thing I'm thinking is, like, is Frank Reich a bad coach?
No,
like, is he a bad coach?
No,
am I back? Am I
right
back in the shit with this?
Frank Reich is a hell of a coach. There's a weird rumor going around about him, but we won't talk about that.
No, we
But,
don't.
no, he is a quarterback whisperer. I know he will get this right with Bryce Young. I know he will. And I don't think Bryce Young played
No, we didn't.
that bad for his
play
first
good?
game ever. You know,
He did not
Yeah,
play
he
good.
played like a rookie in his first
Yeah,
ever NFL
right,
game.
exactly.
It happens.
Nothing about that made me panic. So
Okay, I'm panicked. Desmond Ritter, go ahead. Desmond Ritter had like
Yes.
8 passes.
let us
This
have
is-
it, Drew.
This is a blowout. The Falcons blew the fucking Panthers out.
Falcons defense is also legit.
It is.
Yes.
But I wrote down several names. Desmond Ritter was the one that triggered me off to this. Eight
Oh.
completions for 24 yards at the half.
God.
So and this isn't even all of them. This is just the most egregious ones. Russell Wilson, 27 completions for 177 yards.
Oh, boy.
Joe Burrow, 14 completions for 82 yards.
God.
Oh.
Baker Mayfield, 21 for 173. Bryce Young, 20 for 146. Desmond Ritter, 15 for 115. Kenny Pickett, 31 completions, 232 yards.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Josh Dobbs, 21 completions, 132 yards.
The rocket scientist.
Good God.
Jalen Hurts, 22 for $170. Geno Smith, 16 for 112.
Wow.
And Danny Dimes, 15 completions for 104 yards. Now, is
Oh.
some of that preseason rust? Probably. Is some of that new schemes and new faces and new places? Probably. But doesn't that seem a hell of a lot like a bunch of offensive coordinators who don't trust their quarterback with the ball?
Yes, sure
Yeah.
does. Sure does.
Like a lot.
When
Like,
you're
I
going to see the
I texted Mark, I was like, come mid-season, the Orton line is going to be real high if this trend continues.
It's going to be at 9. I think
Yeah.
this is what you're going to see.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that day. I can't
Josh
wait for
Allen, guardian of the Orton line, maybe.
it. Josh
Somehow-
Allen, guardian of the Orton.
Somehow Alex Smith still is.
right?
Oh,
The spiritual
like,
successor
that's-
to the Orton.
But that is an egregious number of quarterbacks who are averaging like 7 yards of completion.
Yeah.
ugh.
Like
And,
that's
you're
and
right.
by the
though,
way,
Drew.
that counts yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Like how many screen passes did we throw on Sunday?
And how many though? Like there was I mean, it seemed like these attempts were up there, but they were just the plan
Yeah.
was for them to throw 5 yards.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't
Empty
like
calorie. Empty
right,
calorie attempts.
right.
I mean, not on the list, much to my shock, Anthony Richardson, who had
Yeah.
like 20 completions for like 205 yards. Like
Talk about him. He balled.
he maybe he'll prove me wrong. I have no idea. I still think he's going to get a coach fired and probably a general manager, but maybe he proved me wrong. But like, that's a third of the league that I just listed off
Mm-hmm.
that completed a lot of passes and had nothing to show for it.
Yeah. Bryce Young threw 2 interceptions identical to the same man, Jesse Bates, the exact
right.
same pick twice on the exact same play, intercepted by the exact same guy.
Josh
That
Allen did it
doesn't
3
make me
times.
feel good.
Hey, listen, Barry Bonds once said, Jesse Orozco, I can't hit him. So sometimes there's just a guy who has your number.
Yeah.
Jesse Orozco. Oh, God. I'm not going to bury the Panthers anymore. It's 1 week.
No,
Rookie
honestly though,
quarterback.
there's nothing in this game that would make me panic as a Panthers fan. I mean,
No.
this is a new coach, a new scheme, a brand new quarterback.
Yeah, I did
And
laugh.
The Falcons have been in this offense already. They've had the same coaching staff for another year. They got another that's basically a year up over what your staff is. I mean,
Right.
it's nothing. I wouldn't didn't even cross my mind that this would be a panic thing for you.
And listen, like Ryan, not to crush your dreams or anything, but like when we were talking about the Panthers and the possibility
Yes.
of them making the playoffs by virtue of winning their division, it was as much a reflection of
How
their
bad.
division as it
Yeah.
was of them. If they played in a they
Right.
played in a division that played American football, we
chance.
wouldn't be having this conversation.
Petition to go to the CFL East, eh? Take that, Hamilton.
2 things that I also want to say about the Falcons. One was Bijan Robinson looks real good.
Yes, he
And
does.
the other one was the hilarity of Arthur Smith's weird ass philosophies where he gives Tyler Algier the ball multiple times in the red zone, which I thought was going to happen in the
Mhm.
offseason. Like, that guy was good last year. I think he had 1,000 yards rushing. He
Did.
beat the crap out of us. Like, what are you drafting a second running back for? But whatever. They were both good. Arthur Smith, he's having a wet dream right now. He's got 2 Derrick Henrys. Okay. This category is sole owners of first place. It's the Raiders defeating the Broncos.
Hey!
Go ahead, Drew. The
That's right.
Raiders.
I've always had faith in the Raiders. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Here's to paraphrase Peter King. Here's some things I think. One, seeing Tom Brady back at Gillette Stadium and the reminder that he is minority owner of my team.
It's not officially pushed through yet.
Still made some bile come up in the back of my throat. That said, are the Raiders 1-0? Yes, they are, and I'm glad they are. I'm not going to go too far out on the limb. Jimmy G looked really good.
Yes,
I'll give. He was super efficient. He is not on my list of quarterbacks who had an awful passing day.
That's exactly the word I was thinking with him. He is not. I wouldn't even say shockingly, but perfect. This is his entire career. He just wins. That's all he does. It's amazing.
Josh Jacobs looked perfectly average against a defense that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The surprise was that their leading receiver was not Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
So, they got some work out of Jacoby Myers. Go figure, a guy comes over from the Patriots into what is functionally the Patriots offense, led by a former Patriots quarterback and also Brian Hoyer. Mm-hmm. And, he balls out in his first game, right?
Yeah.
So their cause for optimism is too strong a word, but this was a good win over a division opponent with a smarmy head coach and a possibly washed up quarterback. The only thing that gives me pause here is the Raiders for the last several years, and notably last year, have been either bottom or at the bottom of the league in turnovers forced. And against a Broncos offense that doesn't really seem like a well-oiled machine, they again forced no turnovers in the win. They win with a negative turnover ratio, right? Because I think Jimmy threw a pick or fumbled one away or whatever. So it's you still got to work on that. They were last in the NFL in interceptions last year. They had 6 total in 17 games. And it's they've got to figure out a way to get the ball back that doesn't revolve around just fielding kicks and punts. Mm-hmm. So there's still a point of concern there. But hey, you won, and more good than bad. And it was a close game, so a good win for the Raiders, and forward we go.
Yeah, and anytime you can pick up a win against a division rival, this could come back in the end for a playoff positioning. So this is great. And
let's not get carried away with playoff positioning.
Well, let's say this. I think also what I enjoyed the most is fucking Sean Payton look like a sad boy at the end of this one.
Yes, sad boy Sean Payton. There's going to be a lot of sad boys in the sad
also,
boy.
Fuck you for doing the onside on the first kickoff. You dick. It's so smarmy, like Drew said. That is just such a I'm smarter than everybody in the room type of play.
What a thing. What a thing to do. I applaud it. I applaud it.
Ryan, before I forget, are you going to bring up a certain online contributor who perhaps was counting bathrooms?
I was just going to say.
Okay, good.
I was going to say, rest in peace to the bathroom count from last year.
Right.
Which, if you don't know this story, Drew, there was a guy on TikTok who was keeping track on if Russell Wilson could throw more touchdown passes than he had bathrooms in his house. And it took Russell Wilson 17 weeks of the NFL season to tie this number. To tie. I believe he had 13 bathrooms in his house?
13, yeah.
And last year he tied it in week 17, or maybe went over by 1. Maybe
he went over by 1 because it was garbage. I remember getting really angry.
He had thrown a third touchdown pass.
They were down by 40, and he just chucked one. It was just like, oh.
So it was a sad day on the podcast when the bathrooms were eclipsed. When we thought he might not make it. He might not make it. I forget that TikTok guy's name.
He's back though. I saw him on.
Is he back?
Okay. He's doing the counter again.
Okay, good. We'll keep track. Hopefully he throws no touchdown passes for 6 weeks again. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's hysterical. It was so funny. Was
one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time online was he did it like a real newscast. It was real good.
The seriousness that he would take in it. And then he was like, and I've asked Ciara this week for a quote on if she would add a 14th bathroom. And she says, no, we don't need it. It was so good. Really well done. It was hilarious, but I don't think we're going to get there this year. So, all All right, we got some quick hitters in this category. The unknowns. The Jaguars beat the Colts. Do we know anything about the Jaguars or the Colts, really?
I mean,
Anthony Richardson didn't look too bad. He threw a really bad interception, but
there's a surprise.
yeah.
I
Anything
didn't think
here?
it was prophetic that his first NFL touchdown was a rushing touchdown. But
Yeah.
hey, that happens.
Yeah, he didn't look too bad. It's also the Jags. They're not the greatest defense, but
Pittman looked good.
He
Pittman
did.
had a nice long touchdown.
Mhm.
Jags have a lot. Jags could easily run away with this division.
Oh, yeah.
I think we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Commanders top the Cardinals. Barely.
In a game nobody wanted to win.
Right.
Nobody
I can't-
cared. And nobody wanted to watch this.
Right. I can't remember if I texted you this or if I texted Drew or I texted you both this, but I was at a bar. It was a restaurant grill. Okay. I texted Drew this, and they had like a whole bunch of, like TVs on. 2 of them were dedicated to Commanders Cardinals. What
Why?
a choice. Why?
2, not
2.
just one.
And
Not
they
just
were like right there. They were the bigger screens. It was very strange.
Oh,
Listen, when
man.
Cliff Kingsbury rolls up in his full Joker costume,
Right.
you gotta lay it out for him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Cliff was sitting next to me for that one.
Oh, Cliff.
His Joker painting next to him.
Oh, Cliff is great in the Johnny Manziel documentary
Yes.
on Netflix. He's
Well, he's
actually
Cliff. I mean,
he's the most. That's the most likable Cliff has ever
Yeah,
been. He's like,
right.
this guy didn't know what the fuck he was doing. Thank you, Cliff.
Where is he? USC?
Yep. And all of a sudden, our guy Caleb Williams doesn't want to play for the Cardinals. If they, isn't that weird?
Yep.
I love this story. I love
It's
that Caleb
weird.
Williams is going to be the next like Eli Manning or
It's
or
weird
John
how that
Elway.
happens.
Listen, good for him, man. Like you got this NIL money. Just stay in college now.
But
Get your
plus,
degree, get your money.
And in the defense of Caleb Williams, Caleb hasn't said anything. His father, because it's
Right,
always
it was his
father
dad.
or an uncle
Yeah.
or somebody like.
Right.
As
Yeah.
a Spurs fan, the minute they were like Kawhi Leonard's uncle said, I knew he was never going to play for the Spurs again.
Yeah.
But the his father's not wrong, right? Like
He's not.
the draft is set up to send the best player to the worst team, which in a
Yeah.
lot of cases is also the worst organization.
Right.
And that's the functional problem.
Right.
Mhm. I mean, it's going to depend. Like the problem with him, the problem for Caleb Williams is the Cardinals have 2 possible top 2 picks, so that's going to have to do some dodging there. So,
Well, listen,
Bidwell's like, we're drafting him twice.
whatever
he's
it
going
was,
for a third. They're gunning for a third.
Uh,
They still got Buda Baker, right?
I mean, never mind the actual like Phillip Rivers for Eli Manning swap, but like Caleb's Williams' best hope is whatever it was, the 2000 draft when San Diego had the number 1 pick, as they seem to a lot in those days, and traded it to Atlanta, who was a much better team, who then took Michael Vick.
Right.
And then with the 5th pick, San Diego took LaDainian Tomlinson, and then with the first pick of the 2nd round took Drew Brees. So, like, that's sort of the best case scenario for Caleb here, is that somebody trades in and that the Cardinals get left to their own devices.
I mean, you could argue. I mean, it'll be hard to do without a second rounder, but like, had the Jets trade up, like to get that future quarterback. There's a situation you want to walk into with Garrett Wilson already there, and
Yes.
that defense already in place. That's
yeah.
what you hope for in a team that could potentially do that. Just to, they're ready to win. So.
All right. The Ravens beat the Texans in maybe one of the most boring games of Sunday. Lamar wasn't good, but the
No, he
Ravens
wasn't.
easily won because the Texans don't have a lot going on for them.
Well, the Texans though hung in there, like up until halftime.
they play
didn't
hard.
at the end of the game, the score didn't reflect it, but they were playing tough. I give them credit. That's a hard thing to go into, and like if you're a Ravens fan, are you a little concerned? I mean, I know it's been a while for Lamar, but
Beckham only had Beckham didn't catch a pass till like the 4th quarter.
No,
In that-
Beckham is functionally done. Beckhm's a decoy.
Yeah.
And
Zay
and
Flowers
God-
looked great.
God bless
Zay-
him.
Yeah, he
He
did.
is.
Yes,
I was,
he did.
Yeah,
I was,
Zay
ex-
Flowers
he was
did look great.
exciting.
But like, I mean, the Texans are probably maybe the Cardinals have less talent on their team. But I mean, they were giving the Ravens some fits early on, and even into the 3rd and 4th, they were still playing them tough. So, once again, it's week 1.
Yeah.
Ravens.
A lot
I'm sure
can
Lamar
change.
will get this together, but it's just something to note.
And by
I
the
kind of
way,
like.
by the way, the Ravens get the Bengals this weekend, who suddenly look vulnerable.
Yeah. Right.
So
That'd be a huge
you know,
win for them.
they could, and how awful do you feel for J.K. Dobbins? Just,
Right.
No, poor
just
guy.
a heartbreaker.
Yeah, he tore his Achilles. He tore his ACL 2 years
Ugh.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hasn't played a lot of football,
No.
unfortunately.
No.
Moving on, the Eagles defeated the Patriots on Tom Brady Day, which I appreciated that the Eagles did that for me. Thank you very much. The Patriots looked like a competent,
Yeah.
actually decent football team that just didn't happen to win this time.
So I do feel there's a little bit of Eagles complacency in this game where
Yes.
they went up by 16 very quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then they got into that ease off the pedal type
They
of thing.
coasted.
Right. And when you do that and the other team comes back, it is hard to get your mindset back. That's
Right.
what you always hear from the players. Listen to me talk like I fucking know. But just from what I hear from all these guys, it's hard to get back into that gear when you're out of it. So I think there's a little bit of that. The Patriots played tough though. And Mac
They
Jones didn't look like a sack of milk. So
Right.
I mean, that was
They have a competent offensive coordinator.
Well, that's and not only did they go from having like a defensive line coach calling their plays to an offensive coordinator, but like they got Bill O'Brien, who by the way is a real offensive coordinator.
Right.
This man has in his history been entrusted with millions of dollars in order to call
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah.
So like not only did they get an offensive coordinator, they got a really good one.
Do you think he takes over next year, Bill O'Brien?
No.
No?
No, because I think that would require Belichick to retire, and
Oh,
I
you
don't
don't-
think
Oh,
whatever
God.
formaldehyde is in his brain, is in his veins, is ready to leak into the drains yet.
He
Remember
wants to
we went to go
pass
see the-
Don Shula.
Remember we went to
Exactly.
the NFL Hall of Fame? I forgot what year it was.
Sure.
And we saw
2005.
2005. We saw Belichick's fat sweater, like front and center.
Oh yeah, from
His
Carolina.
front sweater.
It was oh god, it was like his sweater that he wore. The sweater,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Oh,
Belichick's
come on.
sweater, right?
The
It was
hoodie
what-
or the sweater?
the
It
hoodie.
was the hoodie. Yeah,
It was
sorry.
the hoodie.
It was like right when you walk in to the
Ugh.
main area, right next to the Lombardi trophy is his fucking hoodie. And it just looked gross. Like behind a glass case. Like I can see I feel like it was condensation inside the glass case. It was that gross.
I've never really wanted to get arrested before and like put myself in that situation, but boy, if I could pee on that fucking hoodie, I would.
Should we?
It'd be worth it. I'd
Should
take
we-
that arrest.
Mark, as the statute of limitations passed, should we talk about the misdemeanor that you committed at the Football Hall of Fame with a certain football from a certain Super Bowl,
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
where you made the rest of us kind of run interference to make sure nobody was watching so you could do it? It's very, very benign.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the football that was erroneously kicked by Scott Norwood is
Oh,
on display at the Hall of Fame.
Okay,
oh no.
so before you finish the
And-
story, not
you can
only
tell
was it
if
on
you want, it's your
display. No,
story.
you'll go ahead and finish it up. But not only is it on display, it's next to the fucking Belichick sweater. So I got to see that, the Lombardi trophy, and then the ball that Scott Norwood missed.
just cruel. That's just cruel.
So as we're standing there, we're reading the placard, right? Like, oh shit, that's the Norwood ball. Like that's the wide right football. And Mark suddenly looks at the others that was gathered, and he's like, "Is anybody around?" And like we start turning around, looking. There's no security guards. There's nobody else. It was like the middle of the week, so there was nobody else at the Hall of Fame that day. And I turned back around just in time to see Mark reach out and touch that football with his middle finger extended.
It did not
You
break
deserve
any
this.
curses that day, by the way. But
What's
it made me
that?
feel better. It did not break any curses, which is my intent. But still,
Oh god. All right, moving on to a category just for Killer Greg. It's Tannehill, by golly.
oh god.
The Titans piss away a game against the Saints where Tannehill looked like hot garbage and should maybe retire. I don't know. He was really bad.
I mean, Greg talked about this on the podcast last year that he thought at the time it was Malik Willis. But get any younger guy in there to see it because we know what we're getting with Tannehill. That is solidified. We know what this guy is at this point in his career, and get the guy who's scared of milk in there. Like get Levis in there and see what he can do.
Mayonnaise. Just drink some mayonnaise. Yeah, I don't know. Saints, I think, are going to be better.
I think the
And
Saints
Titans are tough.
Yeah.
So
Tell
I
you
think
what,
the Saints are good. I think Derek Carr looks good
I think so
playing
too.
for them. He seems comfortable in that offense. Michael Thomas had some catches, so
Yeah.
maybe he's not dead. There's a lot to
Run
like
game
in New
was good.
Orleans.
Right.
For the Titans, DeAndre Hopkins, who I kind of like thought was a little bit of a joke this whole, when he got released up, he had a good game, even with Tannehill
Yeah.
throwing him,
Still
2-yard bombs.
bizarre place for him to go. It makes almost no sense.
They
But
offered him the most money.
yeah.
Yes.
So, like he would have loved to go to the Chiefs, and they wanted him, but they weren't going to give him $50 million.
It's also the Titans. The Titans have a little bit of that like Georgia Tech under Paul Johnson running the triple option appeal, where they probably sold Hopkins on like, whatever, you're over 30. We're only going to throw the ball 6 times a game, but you'll catch 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, right.
Like that's their sales pitch.
Yeah.
And they're in a division where they can easily bounce, and I think they will. I think the Titans are going to bounce back from this. I think, though, it's either, if you're going to keep Tannehill in there, it's got to be it should be always a commitment to run the ball, which they kind of strayed away from a little bit here, which not surprisingly is why they struggled. But I think they still, especially in that division, I think they still can compete with Jacksonville. So we'll see.
Okay, another category. Are they great or is the opponent awful? The Packers destroy the Bears.
Not true.
I just want to say I was the only one on this panel who had the Packers making the playoffs.
You did.
You're right. You're right.
But also, both things can be true. These are not mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
The Bears are also terrible.
This screams of week 1. this on both sides of the ball here. This is just.
We'll say that Jordan Love looked good.
He did look
did.
good.
I got a lot of entertainment out of the team we traded the number 1 pick for sucking and not being able to use DJ Moore. I'll just say that.
I need more data on both of these teams.
Okay.
Boy, boy, did that $90 million offseason free agent spending look like shit for Chicago. Every single player they signed looked horrible.
Yep.
So.
They're in that horrible phase where, you remember, to bring up Michael Vick again, you remember that year where the Falcons were like, we need Michael to run less to lessen his chance of injury, and so we have to turn him into a pocket passer. It looked like the Bears are trying to do that with Fields, and that's not who he is.
No.
Good, bad, or indifferent, like, his best skill is read one guy, and if that guy is covered, take off. Like, he's not a progression quarterback, and I don't say that to insult the man. It's just true.
Yeah.
Like, what he excels at is, did this work? Is my hot route where he's supposed to be? And if not, I'm headed out. Right. And to try and turn him into anything other than that is a disservice to him.
Didn't they learn this lesson last year? It was like 6 weeks in, they decided, like, okay, run anytime you want. And then they started looking a lot better.
Have the Bears learned any lessons since they went to the Super Bowl in 06?
I think it's since Sid Luckman.
Even further back.
Sid
Yeah,
Luckman.
it might be even further back.
And it sucks because, like, football's better when the Bears are good.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And it doesn't, it's like the Knicks, right? Like, basketball's better when
Yeah.
the Knicks are good. Football's better when the Bears are good. And they have not been even worth talking about in more than a decade.
They are quickly becoming, I brought this up before, where for the longest time, I sometimes forgot the Chiefs existed. This was during like the 2000s. They were there, but they weren't competitive, or they were always like 8-8, and it wasn't fun talking about. They didn't have anything interesting going on. That's the vibe I'm getting with the Bears now. I'm like, oh yeah, there is a team in Chicago. That's weird.
Yeah,
it's just
used to be cool. No, probably not.
Cowboys decimate the Giants. The only team to be shut out, the Giants.
Shut up by 40 points.
40 zip.
Not even like 13-0.
Kill. Absolutely destroyed by this Cowboys defense.
We all talked about this. Though.
The telling moment for me was when, what was it at that point? It was like 30-something to nothing, I think. And Dayball, Mark, I'll give you the floor on Dayball in a minute. But Dayball, he calls a triple read option for Daniel Jones at one point. And Daniel, you know where like the fullback comes up and you do that first fake and then you either pitch or run? Jones was sacked before he even got the fake out for the fullback. He was down. Parsons had already sacked him before he could even fake the run.
Is this a bad time to mention that Daniel Jones was not an option quarterback at Duke?
Yeah. Right.
Oh boy.
Remember, he's getting $40 million a year this year.
You can't block, and you're down by 30-something. What are you doing running that play?
The Giants' biggest problem, and I think that actually maybe it's because they both came from the same system. It's actually a problem I think the Bills have too, is they're not changing. Toward the end of last year, the Giants snuck up on a lot of people, and to Dayball's credit, and we gave him lots of credit on this show, he really did innovate that offense to the point where he was getting these games. He was winning these games. Around like the last 5 weeks of the season, teams figured it out, and they figured out what he was doing, and they started to lose those games. They got crushed in the playoffs, and they came into this game, and it's exactly the same offense. There's no change. They didn't even throw in a wrinkle. It's exactly the same thing. And if you're gonna do that, don't do it against a division rival who's already seen it twice, or 3 times. Did they play each other? Did they play in the playoffs? Did Dallas play them, or was it Philly? Who played?
Philly annihilated the
Philly
annihilated the Giants.
Same idea. It's a division it's a division rival that's already seen this multiple times. And by the way, Dallas was not going to let up. Like they're lucky it was 40-0. So,
and by the way, Dak didn't even play that well.
No, he didn't.
They didn't need him
to,
and he didn't.
No, Pollard played amazing. He was great. Yeah. Daboll, I mean, they got to figure something out. Like they got to either recommit to the run, because Barr's going to get kind of lonely if he's the only one there yelling for Tina.
I may have texted this to Mark at the time, but like, isn't Daniel Jones kind of becoming the new Matthew Stafford with the Lions? Like, he's kind of too good to move on from, but he may not be good enough to get you there.
Yeah.
So like, you don't want to start he's like Jake Plummer. You don't want to start the rebuild because maybe
you can get to the playoffs with him. Maybe
probably not.
In that conference, you could still get to the playoffs with Daniel Jones. So
absolutely.
I don't know. Like once again, you got to see more. I would hope that the Giants rebound. Sure. I think we all know a lot of Giants fans, and so like I'm always kind of rooting for them. Plus, they blew up the Death Star, so I always kind of like the Giants.
Yes, twice.
Yes, they did.
The thing I was telling my Giants fan friends at work, and there are a lot of them, is and it's not an exact parallel because the number of games is much greater. But in 2015. The Mets got no hit by the Giants, and I think they got 1 hit by 2 other teams and still went to the World Series.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's possible.
Need more data.
I was at that no-hitter. It was great. Anyway.
The 49ers, maybe the best team in the NFL, kicked the living crap out of the Steelers, baby hands, who I've invested in fantasy. Made me feel very upset.
Is he one of your 9 quarterbacks in that one?
Yes, he's in my 9 quarterback league.
Okay.
I have John Kitna as well. He's on my bench.
Oh, I love John.
The Steelers did not look good after their preseason of, break up the Steelers. Who stops this team? Well, the 49ers do.
and the Niners are. I think I texted you. They're a very forgotten team. When people were making these Super Bowl picks, it was like the Jets. I think it happened probably
Chiefs.
Not now anymore. Chiefs and the Niners were never met. Cowboys got mentioned. Eagles got mentioned. Never the Chiefs or never the Niners. They looked incredibly dominant.
Yeah.
And the Steelers have a good defense, and it was not a problem at all for the Niners on the road. Going into, once again, we talk about a team that still has that home field advantage. Pittsburgh is very much a home field advantage. Heck,
sure.
Brock Purdy didn't give a fuck. They just blew through that.
And that's in a game where TJ Watt still had 3 sacks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like
it didn't even phase them.
Didn't matter.
Nope.
They might be really, really good. The 49ers might be really, really good, which also upsets me because watching Christian McCaffrey run for like an 80-yard touchdown, I'm like, why did we have to?
Who did you get a pick? Would you get a first rounder for that?
No, we didn't get a first rounder for that. Only a second.
Who did you pick?
I think it was part of the Bryce trade. I think one of the second round picks.
That person will always have to be forever in your mind.
It's not worth it.
No, you're okay.
It's not worth it. All right. Game of the week, Dolphins. Our guy, Mike McDaniel, who this is not in broadcasting moments of the week, but the Manning cast commercial.
Very funny.
Absolutely unbelievable. The even longer version. Very, very funny. But Mike McDaniel might have been the funniest guy in the entire thing when he told the 2 Mannings to go fuck themselves in the commercial. He leads his team to his back. They have this was so fun. This was so much fun. Unfortunately, Tyreek Hill is not a good person, so that's not great. But watching him just run all over the place and
Tyreek's got his punch card. All right, he's already. No, I'm not going to go into that.
Oh, careful. 460 yards passing for Tua.
It's amazing.
You know what this game reminded me of? You ever play that back in your college days? You ever play that game where like you know, you were out at the bar for a while or whatever, and you get back to the dorm and it's like 2:30 in the morning, and your buddy's like, "Want to play Madden?" Like
Yeah, right.
this game is the result
Yes.
of what that game usually is, because it's
Yes.
like somebody, you know, everybody likes to play offense, and then you're on defense and you're like, whatever, I don't care. I'm just gonna run goal line defense so I get the ball back. Like that's what this looked like.
I was convinced, by the way. So I mean, so I got two thoughts on this. Number one, I was totally convinced in the entire thing that the Chargers head coach was going to find some way to fuck it up, because that's what he do, and he does
Yeah.
it so well.
He's so
more
good
so
at
than
that.
any coach in the league right now of finding a way to fuck up. He really didn't. He actually behaved himself for the most part, other than not telling his team to play defense.
Which he's an expert at, supposedly.
Yes, he's very. Yeah, the Chargers are notable for not playing defense. Herbert, not feeling it, man.
It's not fun to watch. It's ugly.
There's when the team makes the playoffs, he's like I think I said this before, he drags the corpse of the Chargers past the finish line. But that's as far as he's going. And I don't see a killer instinct in this guy. I just don't. I think he's a good player.
That's
but when the
been
game's
knock
on the
him
line,
forever.
yeah.
Yeah, they ran the ball well. I'll say that. The Chargers ran the
They
ball
put up
well.
like 500 yards offense on the
Yeah.
like that's I mean, so the Dolphins have got to be over the moon for this offense, and they've got to be gravely concerned with this defense, because this Joe Philbin came in and they said he was going to solve all their problems.
Joe Philbin. Wait a minute.
Joe Philbin.
Joe Philbin. Wasn't he like a disgraced Miami coach, Joe
The
Philbin?
problem is
Yes.
he's just incredibly old. So I mean,
Vic
It worked
Fangio. Vic Fangio is the
but like that's the thing. He's not going to be. He has this very old mindset, like Philbin, this very old mindset of how to play defense, and it clearly didn't work in the first game.
Listen,
no.
listen. It don't write off Philbin yet, because remember, you know, Dick LeBeau was drawing plays in the dirt with saber-toothed tiger blood, and
He
then,
was.
you know,
Yeah, in 72 years old. Yeah.
dirt with its blood on a rock or whatever, and then he still goes to the Steelers for however many Super Bowl defenses.
Yep. Probably
I love
not
it.
happy though with his defense giving up that many yards and that many points. In
No,
his
and,
No.
first-
and
No.
Miami should be concerned, because to use the role-playing game term, like Tua is the ultimate glass cannon, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you are living in perpetual fear. That's its own curse.
yeah.
And you know, I mean, once again, not to like, I don't want to diminish the Dolphins' win, because it was a great, thrilling, fun
Absolutely.
win. But the fact that the Chargers didn't blitz also is a little concerning, because I'll tell you who will, the Patriots this week. So that is going to be something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
You think Belichick won't send everybody after Tua? I mean,
Everybody.
Yeah.
you think he
gonna happen.
he doesn't want that? He doesn't want to be the one who crushes the Dolphins' hopes and dreams like he did for so long?
He gets off on that.
Yeah, he does. Or taking picks away from the Jets.
Yeah, that too.
Or
All right,
locked
time.
Genie out of the facility that one time.
Time to move our segments. We got to put together a sad boy boat, but it's a sad boy yacht.
Oh god.
Friend of the show, my good friend Ashley, wrote back to me yesterday. Who are you putting on the sad boy boat? There's so many options.
So
I think she means just for the Bills. too.
option number one, I'm going to tell you the captain of the boat,
Okay.
Megastar Mark, this week.
All Bills fans.
All Bills Mafia. Number
Bills
one on
Mafia
Sad Boy
going on the sad boy boat.
boat. Sean Payton, for real, a sad boy boat.
Yes.
Yes.
Just that scene of him dejectedly walking off the field like the fucking Hulk at the end of the TV show was enough to really fill me with joy.
He's a sad boy boat.
They playing the piano theme. As
Yeah,
you know,
right. Just nobody around him, just walking off.
I think Jets Nation is an obvious
Yeah,
choice.
the
Yeah,
entire
right.
Jet fan base.
Can
Like
I?
both
Can I?
the Fans
I'm-
and Bills fans.
I'm open to debate. Can I suggest Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliakoff? Because what happened ultimately isn't really his fault, but history is not going to remember him kindly.
He's ruling over a kingdom of ashes.
What does that make? 3? We need one more.
Well, that's 4. We have Jets fans, Bills fans,
Okay. Bills
Sean
fans.
Payton.
This is the first time 2 different fan bases have made Sad Boy
The
boat,
same. One of them won that game.
and one of them won, and they're still on the Sad Boy boat. Okay, all right. Broadcasting moments of the week. I've got a couple here. Let me pull this up real quick. So number 1, happy Dallas Cowboy fan in the pouring rain. Did you see this photo? this
No.
clip? All of the Giants fans covered in ponchos in the pouring rain, and then just a guy with a cheesy smile in the middle wearing no poncho. Dallas Cowboy fan.
I got it.
I think Joe Buck went to him and went,
Ah,
"Oh, this guy doesn't feel anything right now." That was a great line.
I love that. I just Googled happy Cowboys.
Yeah,
fan in
these
rain
are
and
all.
got it.
I retweeted every single one of these
Yeah,
on
yeah,
our Pod and Long account. So if you want to find them, number 2, Geno Smith yelling, "Oh shit!" when Aaron Donald ran after him in the one play, picked up on the mics. Just seeing fair. You see Aaron Donald running after him.
Oh my god.
We talked about Jamar Chase. I'm just frustrated because we called their asses elves and we lost to some elves. That's a quote from Jamar Chase. We called their asses elves and we lost to some elves.
What a poet. Oh, I love that. I really do appreciate that, like, commitment to your team and like passion. I really do. Like, props to him. That's awesome.
You know, it's because the U.S. Open just ended, right? And they always show that plaque at the end of the players' tunnel that has the Billie Jean King quote that says whatever it is, pressure is a privilege. And I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to imagine somewhere at the Bengals facility, there's now a plaque on the way out of the tunnel. You know, like Michigan's got the, go blue that you have to tap on your way by. There's a plaque that says, I called their ass elves and we lost to some elves. Jamar Chase, week 1, 2023.
Might be my favorite quote I've ever heard.
That's a great quote. All right.
Remember when you and I almost ended up at the U.S. Open last 2 weeks ago?
Yes, we did. That's true.
What, a week ago? Whatever.
Oh. All right, I got a couple more. There's the I talked about the Undertaker earlier, but the Cardinals knock over the referee in their game, and then he rolls back up and throws a flag, Undertaker style.
I like that.
That's a good one.
I watched like a college game day once where it ended up having the Undertaker on it, which was strange. He was like, I guess he's a Texas fan or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, sure. He's from down there.
Yeah,
that makes sense. All right, one more for you. Andrew Catalan, who used to be a announcer out here
in Albany
for Channel 13.
Oh, wow.
In the middle, like at the beginning of the game, when Matt Ryan is his new color man, brought up the 28-3.
Oh God.
he slowly dripped in 28-3, and they zoomed in on Matt Ryan's face. That guy will never, ever live that down.
I mean,
he will never live that down.
The good news is he also has he also gave up the biggest comeback in NFL history too. So he has that to fall back on.
Oh my God. All right. Time for Greg's bets. I've got them here.
Yep.
Give me your reactions. Minnesota Vikings +7 against the Philadelphia Eagles.
I don't love that, but that's not crazy.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's not crazy.
Okay.
Greg, what's wrong with you? No.
Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
-2.5 against the Patriots.
Oh yeah.
That's
a really good one.
Okay. With that.
I forgot to mention last week he was 4 out of 5. So
yeah.
He had a really nice week.
Score it up.
Colts -1.5 over Texans.
-1.5. Yeah.
I mean, it's 1.5. So.
If you're gonna bet that game, that's the way to bet it. But I would stay away from that game. I don't have faith in either outcome.
Right.
Packers -1 against the Falcons.
Love that.
Wow. -1? That's crazy. Yeah, that's a great pick.
Mark's dialing his bookie as we speak.
Yeah, I'm about to say, what are they getting?
Do people have bookies anymore? Is this a thing?
I don't think so. Bookies are gone.
This is like when to tell an aside, my wife, also a nurse, like had a patient once who was in the hospital because he'd been beaten up by a pimp, and it was like, do people still have pimps in the 21st century? Like,
seriously,
I wasn't sure that was still a thing, but evidently. Anyway, I digress. Continue.
They do. Turns out they do. And then this is fun. You guys are playing each other next week.
Yes, we are.
Are we?
The Raiders plus 8.5 over the Bills.
No, I
That's
wouldn't take it.
obscene.
I wouldn't
No,
take
that's a
Plus
that's
8.5.
8.5 against what? That's watching the Bills. What they just did. That's nuts.
That's exactly why I wouldn't take it.
Oh my
Because
God.
Oakland,
8.5.
we know what Oakland's ceiling is. We just saw it against Denver. Buffalo's going to be mad AF, and that game is in Buffalo. Yes,
It is. Probably. I mean, if they were on the road the first week, so usually they're on
yeah.
at home. Yeah, they're. In
I
Buff-
would.
It's in. Buffalo.
I would still take the Bills and the points there.
Nah,
Bills,
not
are,
8.5.
Bills are
I
at
thi-
home.
I think the Bills will win that game, but I don't think it's going to be 8.5. I think it'll be a much closer game.
Okay. All right. It's time for Drew's new named college football segment, Stripe Spiral. We give the floor to you, sir.
Boy, we have a lot to go through. It's been an interesting 2 weeks.
How much Nebraska shitting are you going to do?
It's on the list. Don't worry.
Okay.
Again, I have like a serial killer's manifesto of scrawled. But the first thing is, God, we need to get to conference play. I can only watch teams beat up on Southeast Missouri State so many times. Everybody seems to have somebody to beat up on. Toledo put 73 points on somebody on Saturday.
Oh my God.
Toledo.
Who the hell is Toledo's cupcake team?
I forget who it was.
Toledo A&M?
Yeah, it was somebody else in the state of Ohio. But but you laugh. But then Northern Illinois lost to Southern Illinois, which is a game they shouldn't lose.
Right.
But there's not, starting with Michigan State, because obviously that situation has gotten real gross real quickly. There's not a lot to say there, except there's two things in the offing here. One, real bad look for Michigan State when they've already had one sexual misconduct scandal with their previous football coach and with their basketball coach. And two, oh, by the way, this is the school that looked the other way for Larry Nassar. And not that there's any levity in this situation at all, but if you are going to sexually harass someone, you probably shouldn't sexually harass someone whose career involves stopping sexual harassment. Really, I don't see a way out of this for Mel Tucker where he keeps his job, but where this is going to get real ugly is because unless there are allegations that are proven either in a court of law or beyond a reasonable doubt through some other means, he's going to be out $80 million remaining on his contract, and he's going to sue the university for that money.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way this goes away from Michigan State is if they decide to settle. Right. So this has not begun to get ugly yet. Moving on to more interesting political experiments. Oklahoma. Anybody see the dust up with Art Briles being on the field at Oklahoma?
No.
So, and there's a logical reason for this. Art Briles is the father-in-law of Oklahoma's offensive coordinator. So it's not like he just rolled out onto the field. But Art Briles, for those who may not remember, is the only guy in recent memory I can think of who, maybe outside of Ray Rice, who has been completely blacklisted from the sport of football at all. Mm-hmm. Because he oversaw the most heinous sexual assault scandal probably in college football history while at Baylor. That was one of those ones that went way up the chain. He got fired, the AD got fired. It ultimately caused the board to fire school president Ken Starr, who you might remember being the same Ken Starr who investigated the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, Art Briles, who is, for whatever other his sins are, he is a good football coach. Grambling kind of sniffed around at him a few years ago, and
really, I didn't know that.
The local citizenry had such backlash that Grambling dropped it. The Hamilton Tiger Cats were interested in Art Briles for a little while, and everybody in Ontario was like, "Don't you dare!" And that got dropped. So now Art Briles just rolls onto the field at Oklahoma, and now there's a brouhaha here. Even though, like I said, he's not in a coaching capacity with the team; they haven't hired him. He's not a consultant, not officially anyway. But he's the father-in-law of their OC, so it makes sense that he's at the game. But the reason I'm thinking about this is because Oklahoma's coach is Brent Venables, who for a million years was the defensive coordinator for Clemson under Dabo and seemed perfectly and publicly happy to just be the defensive coordinator at Clemson. Finally, he suddenly takes an Oklahoma job as a head coach, and good for him, wish him all the best, but this is exactly the kind of crap that he didn't have to deal with when he was defensive coordinator at Clemson, and you wonder how he feels about that. Mm-hmm. That story seems like it's going to go away. Meanwhile, the Atlantic Coast Conference, or I guess the American Coasts Conference, ensures their survivability by going ahead and pulling the trigger on Stanford, Cal, and SMU. Publicly noted that NC State is the school that flipped their vote, so somebody must have convinced them that their futures were not as tied to UNC as they had believed or as UNC had made them believe. More on NC State in a second. They're going to come back. But what I want to know is how much money does SMU have? Because as part of this deal for SMU to join the ACC, they agreed to take no television revenue for something like the first 9 years that they're in the league.
Really?
SMU's theory is they're in the Dallas market. They have a very wealthy booster base. That their boosters will essentially float their program until such time as they can take revenue money. This is basically Pony Excess all over again.
Wait a minute. They've done this before.
We've seen this.
And by the way, the guy who was mostly responsible for that is still very much alive and still very much an SMU booster. But how much money do they have from their boosters that they're okay giving up like $25 million a year for 9 years for their program, and they think that they're still going to be competitive in the ACC?
I could see that with the oil tycoons and the businessmen in that area
Totally.
for like a year or two. 9 years? That seems excessive.
9 years. Meanwhile, the Mountain West grinning from ear to ear because they're going to be happy to be like the rebound boyfriend for Oregon State and Washington State. Oregon State, who's ranked, by the way. Rumors already abound that the Mountain West will simply snap up those two schools and then rebrand themselves as the Pac-12.
I love that.
Especially since Oregon State and Washington State are currently involved in litigation to try and control the likeness and trade rights. Actually, a judge issued an injunction the other day preventing the Pac-12's Board of Commissioners from meeting, arguing that it was actually that it was against the interest of the Pac-12 to have the commissioners meeting when 10 of those guys are leaving. So, the Mountain West now is thrilled. Sucks to be the American Conference because now you've lost all of your big money schools that were the reason that you thought that there was going to be a Power 6 someday. So Houston, SMU, UCF, Cincinnati have all gone to other conferences. And it really sucks to be Conference USA because in trying to replace those schools, the American went and robbed all the best teams from Conference USA. Who now their best team, I think, is Liberty. And by the way, for the American, maybe not done yet, conversations that they are trying to convince Army to join the conference, which would make Army-Navy a conference game and possibly a conference championship game. And that gets into some theoretical future where one of those teams might be playing for a playoff berth, but that game's always played after the conference championship week. So how does that factor into the scheduling and the poll release? And it gets real ugly. But Army might finally join a conference. Finally, we get to stuff on the field. Colorado.
Coach Prime.
Much has been said about Colorado. Here's all my thoughts about Colorado.
Okay, I'm so ready.
Colorado beating TCU is a huge statement win for a program that has not had a statement win since Cordell Stewart was their quarterback. And so really, really good for them. They have arrived. They are a real team. All those transfer dudes, they've got 80 new players or whatever it is, and they look really good, and they look really well coached, and they're really disciplined, and all of that credit goes to Prime. It is worth it to remember TCU was probably ranked number 17 as a courtesy, because, as the returning national runner-up, most of the players you knew from that team were gone.
Yeah.
And we've seen this before. This is kind of someday I'll get into my thesis about the App State upset over Michigan, but Michigan shouldn't have ever been number 5 in the first place. Not to diminish what App State did, but Michigan was not the number 5 team in the country, but they were the returning national champions, so they were kind of rated there as a courtesy. Anyway, TCU maybe not really that good, and there are some points of concern here. Colorado's defense had 0 tackles for loss against TCU. They had no negative plays, but it's easy to forget because Coach Prime loves to talk up Shedeur was playing HBCU football last year, and now look at him in a Power 5 conference. Shedeur Sanders was a 4-star quarterback recruit before he agreed to go play for his father. Right. And the other kid, who we haven't seen a player like Travis Hunter since Charles Woodson in college football, he was also the number 1 recruit in the country at any level, at any position when he agreed to go play for Texas State. So it's not like these guys are bereft of talent. These are not FCS guys suddenly playing for Colorado. But I'll give Coach Prime some credit. He finds Jimmy Horn Jr. sitting on the bench at South Florida, a guy who can't get playing time on a bad team, but he can run in straight lines real fast. And they grabbed him out of the portal and turned him into a real receiver. Colorado, they're going to pave Colorado State this weekend, who hasn't been football relevant since the first George Bush administration. And then comes the test. Then they go to Oregon, who didn't look great in their last game, but has a very disciplined, very good defense. And by the way, Oregon's going to be rated higher than them unless they lose this weekend. And then they get USC at home. And
That's
if
gonna be a fun game.
and if they split those two games, Colorado is in great shape because they don't play another dominant team really until the end of the year when they would play Utah, theoretically. UCLA is ranked right now, but that could come and go to the 25th team in the country. So they don't play another really established good team until Utah at the end of the year. But if they go 0-2 in those games, Colorado is done. Next year with the 12-year playoff, it expands. Maybe they got a better chance. But if, Colorado has got to hope for at least a split there. If they go 2-0, all bets are off. Then Shedeur Sanders is winning the Heisman Trophy, handed to him now. And, Colorado will sweep the Pac-12 unless they spit the bid against Utah, which everybody seems to every year. So there's a lot of Colorado thoughts. But I do think listening to Prime and hear him talking about how he has receipts on everybody who said bad things about him and about
even Ed Warder, who didn't say anything.
Yeah,
He yelled at poor Ed.
And considering that Prime loves to talk about how he doesn't care about team chemistry and he doesn't care about team culture, he cares about winning. Boy, they sound a lot like Jimmy Johnson's Miami Hurricanes, don't they?
They sure do. They sure do. I am wondering how long it's going to take before an NFL team reaches out to Coach Prime.
I wonder that too, and you've already heard that rumor. I don't know. He's very demanding of his players. I don't know how that would translate, but boy, they'd love to play for him.
You're telling me Dallas wouldn't reach out?
I know it.
That seems to be the most obvious choice. I mean,
Yeah.
It's going to happen someday.
Yeah.
And then of course Colorado goes and beats the stuffing out of Nebraska this past weekend.
Thank you for bringing this up.
Nebraska is moribund. They were the best team in the country and had Tom Osborne was a visionary, right? He was the first coach to realize if I want to survive, I need to recruit outside of my local area. I need to be in a coast to coast recruiting platform. And they got all new facilities and they renovated their stadium and the whole bit. None of that has been true since Tom Osborne left. They still have the same facilities and the same stadium that they had when he was there. Some Nebraska fan on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it calls itself now said in response to losing to Colorado and them starting the season 0-2, they should just build a dome over their stadium and make it the permanent volleyball facility. Since Nebraska's women's volleyball team set an attendance record for volleyball 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right. 91,000.
But they are awful. And Matt Rule, if he doesn't have it already, there was a moment in Nebraska's history when Scott Frost was their coach, returning to his alma mater, where he started to get his look on his face why on earth did I leave Central Florida for this? And Matt Rule is rapidly heading in that direction. The only difference, of course, is that he didn't leave a job to come there. He had been released from his prior responsibilities.
I got nowhere else to go.
But boy, it's I think I don't know. People still think of Nebraska as old Nebraska, and they suck.
They really do.
They have sucked for a long time, and it's not totally their fault. It is a hard place to recruit, and Nebraska has a wide base of boosters, but I don't know that it's an especially wealthy base that's just going to pump that school full of NIL money. It's hard, You can offer our boy, their wide receiver, DeColdest. You can offer him all the local advertising, air conditioning commercials you want. If you haven't seen the DeColdest commercial, please do.
I have.
It's unbelievable.
Yep.
But Nebraska's a bad program right now, and I don't know if Matt Rule was a very good college coach. I don't know if he's a good enough college coach to make Nebraska live up to the expectations of being old Nebraska. Nebraska's ceiling right now is Minnesota, who beat them in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my thoughts on Nebraska. I do think I hate to say these things because I don't think they deserve any more attention. I think Notre Dame might be good. I think Sam Hartman is slinging that ball out there. I think he looks outstanding. He apparently has a necklace made out of part of his own rib.
Ooh. Much though, we talked about how it's better when the Bears are good, and it's better. Yeah. It's better for the sport when the Knicks are good. College football is better when Notre Dame is good. It's not just to have a villain.
Yeah. And I know I promised I would bring up NC State again. The reason I think Notre Dame is good is because they controlled the game against NC State. And NC State currently lives in that role like Kane and then Umaga did in the WWE, where like every time you were like an up and comer and you needed a match in the storyline to prove that like you were really a badass and were ready to compete for championships, they would have you wrestle Kane or then Umaga. Like that's who NC State is. If you can throttle NC State, you might be a pretty good team.
They're the Umaga of college football.
Just to point out, you know who was a tag team partner of Kane? That would be X-Pac.
Oh,
Let me just get that one in early or late.
you know who might be the Jaylen Brown of coaching of Dead Money? Matt Rule.
Well, it's funny you mentioned dead coaching money. I'm just coming to that. So the only other interesting thing that's happened so far is Texas A&M went right down to Miami and lost. Now, some of that is that Cristobal's got Miami playing pretty good, even though it looks like he chugs like 3 bottles of Pepto-Bismol an hour.
Yes, it does.
But
I think I commented to you that he needs to go up 2 shirt sizes.
Yeah.
I like to be choked during games by my collar.
He always seemed like kind of an easygoing guy at Oregon. Ever since he went back to his alma mater, he looks like he just like mainlines Dramamine or something to keep himself from just blasting an artery and being done. But Texas A&M goes down to Miami and loses. They went 5-7 last year. Reminder that Jimbo is the highest paid coach in college football right now. God forbid if they go 5-7 again. God. I don't think they will, but if they do, and Jimbo gets fired, like now you're talking about Charlie Weiss levels of dead money that Texas A&M would owe him. But on the scale of a 2023 college football coaching contract and not a like Notre Dame 2003 coaching contract, they would owe him for the rest of time. Like he would be able to Mario Lemieux that team and just go back and like buy large portions of their facility and call it the Jimbo wing. But off to a bad start at College Station. And conversely, what makes it worse for Jimbo is that I think his old team, Florida State, as of right now, is the best team in the country.
They look good.
Yeah, they look real good.
They beat the stuffing out of LSU and Brian Kelly's fake accent. And then, and I mean, listen, everybody does in week 2, but then they beat the absolute stuffing out of whoever their cupcake game was for their homecoming game. Mm-hmm. Like, they look really, really good. They look really good. 10 weeks from now, are we going to say something different? I don't know. But Bama didn't look good and Texas did. And Florida State looks really excellent right now.
Yep. I don't know. Like I have a soft spot for Florida State. Something about kind of going back to the whole thing. I always like having them around and at the top of NCAA football. There's just something fun about them.
Free Shoes University.
Free Shoes University. That's right. Jameis, famous Jameis.
Oh boy.
Who played in the national championship and won with Jimbo Fisher.
Yep.
There you go.
By the way, so my son and I were watching the Colorado game, and they had I think it was I forgot what commercial it was. It was something that Prime was in, right? And he had Travis Hunter, and I think he had his son in the commercial as well. Now, I know Travis Hunter is young.
Yes.
He is the worst actor I have ever seen in my life. Like how did he get there on that first day? And the director was like, "Oh no! Where's your other son? Get that kid from the secondary. Like we'll ad lib it because that guy. I thought that was the joke of the commercial was that he was just bad at this, and it turns out no. Like the commercial is about insurance. It had nothing to do with Travis Hunter being bad at acting. It was just really weird."
By the way, I'm waiting for it hasn't happened yet, but I'm waiting for the palpable tension between Deion Sanders and Nick Saban to start bubbling up in their Aflac commercials.
Yes.
Because the better Colorado gets, the more Nick is going to resent him.
Yes, right.
And I'm waiting for this to come through on film.
I cannot wait for Nick to just, maybe it's very subtle at first, just a dig. One small dig at somebody at Colorado, and Deion turning it into a 2-hour diatribe about how Nick Saban's the worst thing ever. Like, I can't wait for that to happen because I know it's there.
This only ends with Deion peeing on the statue of Nick Saban out front of Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Oh, God. All right. That's the Stripe Spiral.
Sorry, that's a very long segment, but there was 2 weeks of stuff to cover.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about. All right, it's time for a football foobar.
Yes.
Mark?
So, not a great first week for the Giants, right? I mean, they left a lot to be desired on the
0
field.
points.
Yeah, 0 points. So, let's get into our throwback machine. Let's get into our time machine, though, let's discuss a player for the Giants who always showed up on the field. It was off the field that was the problem. So today, get your eagle tattoos ready. We're inducting Shockey. Going into football FUBAR. Jeremy Shockey.
This
Now,
guy.
before we dive into Shockey's career, I just want to take a moment to appreciate that Shockey is the 4th member of the 2001 Miami Hurricanes team that has been inducted into football FUBAR.
Wow.
So we have the dump truck, Najee Davenport, in. The Love Boat captain, Bryant McKinney, in. And unfortunately, Kellen Winslow also in. Not as funny as the first two, but, still in. That's 4. So there's a lot of meat. It's like Antonio Brown. There's a lot of meat on this bone. There's going to be future inductions. I got a lot of other players to go through on that 2001 Hurricanes team. Anywho, on to Shockey. So he entered the league and he entered the NFL as a long-haired, heavily tatted dude with a penchant for making big plays and throwing thunderous blocks when he was at the U. He really was kind of like the poster child of like that early 2000s culture.
Very hateable.
He definitely like paid to see the Scorpion King multiple times. He had a whole bunch of CDs there.
He owns a ton of Toby Keith records.
Yeah, that's just who he was. So after getting drafted from the U in 2002 by the New York Giants with the 14th overall pick, Shockey immediately skipped the rookie symposium and played hardball with his contract, as one do. When he finally did make it to Giants camp his rookie year, linebacker Brandon Short demanded that Shockey sing his alma mater fight song during lunch, something of a rookie hazing tradition in the NFL. Shockey wanted to eat his horribly catered UAlbany lunch and said, "No, I'm not going to sing it." And Brandon Short said, "Yes, you are." And Jeremy Shockey said, "Fuck you." And they got into a fist fight in the middle of the UAlbany catered cafeteria. So now, first off, Brandon Short, it's kind of stupid. Like, who cares if he's not going to sing his fight song? That is kind of dumb. But this is the first sign that drama is going to be following this kid around wherever he goes. So after that big fight, he did an interview with Howard Stern. And boy, oh boy, what an interview.
Oh boy.
So the first thing he said was that he hoped there were no gay players in the NFL. This is a quote.
Oh.
If I knew there was a gay guy on my college football team, I probably wouldn't, stand for it. They're going to be in the shower with us and stuff. So I don't think you want to work. That's going to work. That's not going to work for me, Okay. That was verbatim. In that same interview, he then proceeded to tell Stern his lifelong dream was to have a threesome with a mom and her 2 daughters, which is both gross and mathematically incorrect, since as Drew is pointing out, it involves 4 people. So,
what?
This is all in one interview, by the way. I did listen to it. It is amazing.
Oh my God.
That's my favorite. That's one of my favorite stories ever.
It's so good. A year later, and I don't remember this, unprompted during an interview, he called, at the time, Dallas Cowboys head coach, quote, a homo, end quote. The best part about this, I couldn't find any reference of why he brought that up. It's just like he was at a post-game press conference, said that, got his Gatorade, hopped into his raised pickup truck, Papa Roach blaring out all 12 speakers, and just peeled out of the parking lot.
Oh my God.
It was his last resort, Mark.
Now,
I'll see myself out.
And we're done. Despite this, though, his very ignorant behavior, he was on the field always performing very well. He had 4 Pro Bowls. He was an All-Pro. Technically, he won a Super Bowl with the Giants, even though that was the year the Giants started playing better when he wasn't there. He was injured that year, and the Giants won a Super Bowl with him on the bench. So the Giants, kind of seeing the writing on the walls, knowing that this guy can't shut the fuck up, they traded him to New Orleans, where he spent 3 years there. Couldn't really recapture the magic, and then finished his career 1 year with the Carolina Panthers. Finish it up there.
Yeah.
So I also can't imagine, by the way, when he was with the Giants, I didn't put this in my little write-up here, but apparently it was like 2005, and they got beat, and he said we were like outplayed and outcoached, and make sure you print that because I want Coughlin to read it. Coughlin is next to him when he says this. Probably a deeper shade of purple at that point. So that's kind of it. Like, he ended his career with the Panthers. Thankfully, he's kind of quietly retired. I guess he used all of his stupidity up during his on the field career. So Jeremy Shockey, I think a little bit overdue. Welcome to football.
Yeah, he belongs.
I have a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
Was he on the Saints at the same time as Kyle Turley? Because if he is, that locker room listened to Freak on a Leash so many times in a row. Like so many times in a row.
I still see Shockey jerseys though. I mean, I mean, two of us are in upstate New York, and we still see Shockey jersey. I mean, all the time. If I go to a bar, there's dude wearing a Shockey jersey or a Strahan jersey.
Oh
so,
my god!
I guess beloved Giants legend. Anyway,
I want to say he was there when I was working Giants training camp.
Yeah,
right after college. I think he was there, and he was a big problem behind the scenes.
Yeah,
from what I remember. And Plaxico was the other one. Oh, everybody around New Albany was always talking about Plaxico going out after curfew and doing this and that. Him and Shockey were the same.
Shockey went to the U.
Oh man,
remember when Shockey kept getting compared by Giants fans to Mark Bavaro just because he was a white tight end?
Yes,
like right. Not to come to the defense of Shockey, but his game had no relevance to Mark Bavaro's at all.
No. Oh my god! All right, let's give out a game ball. Everybody gets a game ball every week during the season.
Mm-hmm.
Give out a game ball. You got one? You got one in the chamber? You want to give out?
Two.
I got one.
Actually, I'm going to give Tua, man. Oh my god, what a hell of a performance! And plus, how good is it for him? All the shit he went through last year to be able to come into the first game of the season and light it the fuck up. That's got to be a great moment for him. Tua.
Okay. I am not just for making me look reasonably smart, but that helps. I'm going to give my game ball to Jordan Love. Because when I listed off all of the quarterbacks who had awful completion per yardage per completion stats, Jordan Love actually had like 22 completions for like 330 yards. So
awesome. He was great.
Balled out against the crappy Bears.
All right, I'm giving mine to Xavier Gipson because he was an undrafted receiver who made this Jets team and then had that game-winning punt return. So
go fuck yourself.
I enjoyed watching him in Hard Knocks and that he makes that big play. So
I didn't.
Just say, see who our new co-host is next week.
I'm out.
No longer appears on the show.
Works out. Greg's back. All right, quick plug. You can. Greg's back with his cowboy hat. Quick plugs. TJF podcast. We had one. It was a good one. It was a lot of fun about the bomb episodes, but more importantly, Greg agreed that Drew, your topic will be the next episode.
Yes.
Virginity is going.
It also took us. So after we recorded the last pod and long,
seconds later, Mark starts
each other.
messaging.
Yeah, and I'm like, I already found 4. Like this, it took me no time at all to find 4. It was like the step-by-step one with JT. And then obviously the Family Matters one, Drew, that you brought up that I'm so excited. I think out of the 4, that's the one I'm most excited to watch. Because I had forgotten about it, but when you brought it up, I immediately remembered like Carl's weird reaction to his son being a virgin.
He fist pumps. It's crazy.
Yes. And then we got horrible Full House one.
All you had to do was Google "very special" and TGIF, and all those episodes were going to come populate.
Yep. We found a DJ virginity episode in Full House, which we've always talked about how Full House breaks Greg. He almost died the last one. He really almost quit. It was so bad. I can't imagine what this one is going to do to him. And then I forgot the other one. But still.
Quick plug, if I may.
Yes.
Monday on my semi-retired music blog that Chris does an excellent job of keeping up, and I am an all too infrequent contributor to. On Monday, my rambling and probably not at all revelatory essay concerning the 25th anniversary of Rob Zombie's Hellbilly Deluxe.
Oh, nice!
Ooh.
Great album.
It was a great album.
Yep.
And still sounds good 25 years later. Like most of the contemporary albums from that era have sort of faded off, but there's something about that one that sticks. So
that's awesome.
I attempt to explain it, and spoiler alert, fail, but it's still probably going to be a fun read.
I can't wait to check that out. All right, we'll be back in week 2. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Peace out.